All right. Finally. Bit of a crazy day. I do want to announce that we lost a cast member today. It's kind of sad.
Oh, God.
Randy has exited the show for a little while.
Oh, this.
What?
Nothing.
All right. What are we doing first?
The scene again?
Okay. All right. So.
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Themes to Be Seen. My name is Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Castick.
And we have a podcast. Welcome. We have 3 segments to the show. We talk about one movie that either one or the other English is hard. One or the other of us hasn't seen since we were young or for a long time. And then we watch it again and see if it holds up. Do a little critique. We have another segment where we look at influential music videos, and we're probably looking at the most influential music video we've looked at so far.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also do, if you paid attention to season 1, which, I mean, that was kind of difficult. But if you did, our deep analysis segment where we go really deep into the symbolism and under themes of one particular movie over the course of many weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's the actual Themes to Be Seen show.
Yeah.
This week is our second season finale. We're going to take probably a month and a half off, try to plan an entire season to actually get it done before
maybe a little bit longer.
2 months
than that.
Yeah. Get the whole thing done, ready, get our notes. That way we just have to refresh our, instead of trying to do it week by week.
Yeah, a lot of research goes into what we do, and especially now with my new current work schedule, my free time is not as flexible as it was earlier in the season, so I have a lot of adjustments to make, and I don't have as much time right now, so.
Also, like, and there is a lot of research in what we do. Recently, if you watched the special episode that we had the guest Eric Burt on, while I was sending him research, we had a Google Doc that we were going back and forth on, I would do research and then put a bunch on there, and he'd be like, dude, how do you do this? He would text me and be like, man, I feel like I'm taking a college class working with you. And I mean, and it is, we could almost teach an entire class on how we go through and we kind of verify and then find new techniques, things we haven't looked at before, and it's difficult. So we're going to try to get all that done before next season even starts.
Also, even throughout this season, we've made a lot of adjustments, and we might continue to make changes with our lineup, and maybe add like a separate like Scene Again show.
Scene Again,
because we've been getting way more in depth with those. So yeah, many changes ahead and some much needed time off.
Yeah.
So.
Because this is it. We can't do what Matt and Mark do. Because everything for them just comes right off their head. It comes from like past experience. They can just draw from experience. Everything we do is stuff that we have to like actually research over the course of a week, and it's tough.
Doing it with full-time jobs that have nothing to do with this, it's just, it is pretty hard, and I wish we could focus solely on this. That would be nice, because then the show could be something completely different, but for the meantime, and like socially too, it seems like every weekend there's been something going on, and I am completely drained, so
anyway, we just watched the Super Bowl halftime show, which is why we're on about a half hour late this week.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone else is still watching it, but it's okay. That's why we make clips throughout the week.
That's why we record. That's why we download and record and make sure that it's out so people can still watch it. It was awesome. I had a lot of fun with it. I was dancing around in the living room like an idiot. Kendrick absolutely was amazing. To see the band that was playing with Eminem when he was performing was like an all-star band. Anderson .Paak was playing drums. Thundercat was playing bass. Like, those are guys who in the background, like Anderson .Paak just recently has gotten his like big public break, but he's been around for a long time and is a well-respected musician. To see Dre actually playing instruments again, actually playing a piano, I feel like a lot of these guys are underestimated as musicians just because they make hip-hop music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can already tell by my Facebook feed there are a lot of upset people, but there are other genres besides rock music that deserve to play at the Super Bowl, so maybe next year you'll get your Coldplay back. Who knows?
My God.
But yes, I did see somebody post something about maybe having Coldplay again next year.
Really?
But, yeah.
Coldplay.
Yeah.
If you're watching this show, and you ever look at me and go, hey, put on some Coldplay, we're not friends anymore.
Oh, jeez.
Don't ask me to listen to Coldplay.
Then don't listen to it.
I won't. I never will.
I won't either,
Yeah,
willingly.
Nobody ever has to worry about me.
But if you like Coldplay, you like Coldplay. I don't expect everyone else listens to, like, Kate Bush or anything. So.
Right.
But yeah. I don't know. And pretty funny that 50 Cent was there when he is in the movie that we've been talking about for the past, like, 5 episodes. What part are we on now? Is this
6? This
part
is 6.
6 of Southpaw?
Yeah. Which actually, Southpaw was 7-8 years ago it was made. 50 doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
He's taking good care of himself.
He was, like, initially hanging upside down.
Like in the club video. Because, like, one of the big parts of the in the club video is him.
I don't really remember that video.
It's a lot of him working out.
Yeah.
It is a lot of him just working out. That's one of the... Because in the D12 video for my band, Bizarre is making fun of 50 Cent working out in that video a lot. Like, he's like, he can't do a sit-up, and he's, like, holding onto a pull-up bar, and his arms are shaking, so... I love Bizarre. Anyway. This week, in our Themes We Heard, we're doing... the first emo video.
Are we doing that first, or are we doing Scene Again first?
Right, we're doing Scene Again first.
Okay. We should get the photos ready.
Okay, so, in our Scene Again this week, hold on, there we go. Make these just a tad bigger.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Just cover my face, I don't care.
Is that too close to you? There.
That's fine.
Okay, so this week in our Scene Again, we watched Cherry Falls.
Cherry Falls. I had not seen this since, about the time that it came out, but it was just added to Shudder this week, so if you have Shudder, you are able to watch it. It's still the rated R version. I'm not sure if we're ever gonna see the uncut
No, like the
version.
director's... Yeah.
Yeah, so this movie came out, like, it was made, like, 99, 2000, so it does have, like, that late 90s feel, with, like, the music and everything, and it was directed by Jeffrey Wright and written by Ken Selden, and the cinematography was done by Anthony B. Richmond. When we rewatched this, like, the cinematography and the editing were things that I, like, instantly noticed I liked a lot. But the cinematographer has worked on films like Don't Look Now and stuff like that, so...
Really? Like, yes. One of the standout things about this film is the cinematography. There are really cool... well done shots that you don't expect to see, like almost like artistic shots that you don't expect to see in this kind of a movie. The cast is unexpected, but also like the performances are elevated past what you'd think the film is going to be. There are a couple really awesome scenes between a couple of actors that, like, you don't expect to be so good. Like, they're really giving these performances as much as they can.
Yeah. So, Cherry Falls was made, in the late 90s, where we were already being, like, filled, like, with all these different slasher films. Like, we had the Scream series, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and other movies like Valentine and just
Trash.
stuff like that. So, what makes Cherry Falls unique is it took this completely different approach where, in most slasher movies, like starting with Friday the 13th, it's the kids that are being stalked and killed are the ones that aren't virgins. And in this movie, it's the virgins that are being killed off, and it's this quiet little town that we find out, like, has this, like, dark history that, like, there was one moment in time that was really dark, and so now suddenly these virgins are being killed off.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie was made for $14 million, and it was never released theatrically because it was submitted to the MPAA. Am I saying that right? MPAA, MPAA,
MPAA.
Whatever. Rating system.
Trash.
It was submitted and rejected like several times.
Which, if you watch it now, it's super tame. Like, there's no...
Mm-hmm.
Which, in the unedited version, I would like to see, like, the director's cut unedited version, because whatever gore or whatever that they pulled out, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, so we don't... Like, the deaths that occur, we don't actually, like, really see much, and then we get some of that cheesy, like slow motion where it's like that... Like fragmented slow motion,
like
where
flashbulb.
Yeah, kind of like
yeah.
It looks cheesier than regular slow motion, but yeah, a lot of it. There's not actually like a lot of killings in this either, and the ones that do take place happen like off screen.
There is one cool like massacre scene
Towards.
Yeah, at the end, where the killer's just, like, destroying kids.
But then we don't actually know if any of them, like...
Died.
Yeah.
But still, it's the idea that the killer's just kind of wading through kids, swinging a knife.
We'll get into that, because, like, the last 20 minutes of this movie are a riot.
The last 20 minutes of this movie are bonkers.
But yeah, so, it was never released theatrically. So because the victims are virgins, there is a plot about the high school students planning this big, like, orgy party, and the director originally wanted everyone to be filmed, like, naked, and it was shot, but then it had to be cut in order to avoid an X rating, and because they couldn't get it past the rating system, it was just like heavily edited and premiered on TV instead. So at the time, it was seen as like the most expensive TV movie ever made, and then it just kind of like disappeared. I honestly don't even remember where I first saw this. Maybe it was on TV, or I don't know if we rented it. Like, even though it was never released in theaters, I know there were like VHS tapes of it, and you can find it on DVD, but I don't remember. I just remember seeing it when it first came out and liking the idea of it. It's like, oh, that's kind of like a reversal on the genre. And then it just, like, completely disappeared. And I even posted yesterday that we were going to be talking about it. And my sister was like, I completely forgot about that movie.
Yeah. There are... Because of the way the movie's set up, and one of the downsides to a lot of these late 90s to late 2000 slashers is that the story falls apart. Like, the story is given way by just killing. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't see it. And that's what made them bad, is because there was no story and there was no gore. So they didn't have either or. This one may not have, like, the violent killing of other movies, but the story holds together really well.
Yeah, it kind of, reminds me more of like the original Halloween, which didn't have any blood or anything in it. It really didn't need all of that. It still would be cool to see it as it was intended to be released, but it just has that like organic feel to it. Like, it takes place in Virginia, and I believe it was actually shot in that area.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Virgin.
See, there's a lot of like punny things that go on in this movie too, but at the time, even the residents like I believe in Richmond, where they were shooting a lot of it. Like they used a school and stuff there. Even the local residents were very unhappy because of the nature of the film and like the brutality and stuff. And then it was supposed to be shot within 30 days, and production ended up going over, so then it just made for a very tense set, and everything, it just seemed like everything kept going wrong with it, and they couldn't get the rating that they wanted, and they couldn't get it released. And so I am just like curious to, that's something we'll never know, like how it would have done. But at that time, there were so many slasher movies already being made, but this one just had a slight edge because it was different. And you watch this movie now and you're like, oh, hey, it's Jesse Bradford, or it's that guy. Like, there were so many people in this movie that would go on to do other things. And of course, we have Brittany Murphy and Michael Biehn and Jay Moore.
Jay Moore, one of my favorite stand-up
comedians.
Candy
Clark. Candy Clark plays Brittany Murphy's mom, and she was in the Blob remake from the late 80s, At Close Range.
Was she in At Close Range? Yeah,
she was Christopher Walken's girlfriend. She had the short hair.
Yep.
And she was in The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie. Like, she did a lot of, like, cult-style movies.
So a lot like the career of Michael Biehn.
Yeah.
Like, it seems similar.
Yeah. But yeah, there's, like, a lot of punny stuff. Like, it's kind of a witty script, too.
It's a smart script.
Not, like, as outwardly witty as something like Scream, where it's like aware of itself, but just the puns, like it seems like everything is over sexualized because of the nature. And then like at the library, the statue out front, and it says like erected in the year, and then the camera like focus in on the word erected, and there's some like funny like one-liners and stuff like that. The stuff with the teenagers felt real too, because
teenagers are dumb.
Yeah, and you have Brittany Murphy's best friend has a crush on this kid, and he just seems like a total idiot. And then I think I was even like, why does she like him? And then Matt was like, well, you got to remember, she's a teenager. And then I'm like, oh yeah, if I think about people that I probably liked at that age, I would probably now look back and say, why?
Yeah, like, there's no rhyme or reason to who teenagers find attractive, what they find attractive in other teenagers around them. And there is the big joke on the internet about, oh, my 15-year-old daughter said that she thinks Lucas is cute, and then they just show like a picture of a hairless chihuahua. You know what I mean? So their minds aren't developed yet, and so we see this kid. He's got potato chips on his plate, and instead of picking them up, he's like leaning over and just licking them off his plate, and she's like staring at him dreamily. And Tara was seriously confused. She was like, what is she thinking? And I was like, Tara, you gotta remember, teenagers are idiots. Like, and it's just how it is. And this film chose to show teenagers as being as dumb as they actually are. Which isn't something, most of the time, you watch the Scream series, and all their 30-year-old teenagers, and they're like super smart, and they're witty, and they're bouncing off each other, and they know everything. And it's like, and then you watch this and you go, oh yeah, teenagers are stupid. Which also is the point of the story, because teenagers being stupid leads to these bad things happening. Like the dumb things you do as a teenager can follow you forever. And that's especially now in the age of the internet and social media. Teenagers can do something dumb, and it's never gonna be gone. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to also mention the Coca-Cola product placement. There is so much product placement in this, but then I was like, oh, they should have done cherry Coke. But yeah, there were also moments, so I mentioned that, parts of it kind of have that Halloween vibe. There's also, like, Giallo moments,
you
too.
You just stole that out of my brain.
So there are some good chase sequences in this between, like, Brittany Murphy and the killer. Like, there's the one at school, like, in the science classroom, and then one later in the library. They're very quick. Like, there's not a lot of, like, suspenseful chase sequences, but the ones that they do have are done pretty well. But that scene in the classroom, and the killer has this really long hair, and then they just whisper, virgin. And it reminded me of, like, an Argento movie. Like, in Suspiria, you would just hear a random, like, witch or something like that. Or, like, a killer in, like, Tenebrae or something. You hear them whisper something.
You know what caught my eye? And it struck me immediately, but I didn't want to say it out loud and have you go, So I'd rather have you correct me right here in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. There are multiple scenes of the killer sharpening their knife, putting on black gloves, and then sharpening their knives and putting them in order and then rolling them up in a thing. And I was like, man, that really reminds me of Argento films. You always see the killer's black gloves and the knives and everything before, like, through the eyes of the killer before they actually kill anybody. And that's something that this movie has a couple times.
Yeah, the sharpening the knives too, always reminds me of, like, the beginning of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where you get those quick flashes of him, like, just his hand, like, sharpening the knives and stuff. But yeah,
there's one thing that doesn't pay off, though. We see that the knives that the killer uses are ballistic knives. Like, the killer can press a little button and the thing shoots out. Mm-hmm. We never see the killer use it.
Yeah.
That's a bummer. I want to know what the director wanted to do with the ballistic knife, with the blade of the knife shooting out, because we never actually see it happen. It's the Chekhov's gun thing, where, like, if you set up a gun in the first act, in the third act, that gun better go off, and we never see it.
Well, that's the thing, too. Like, I'd be curious to see the uncut version, because there are parts where it kind of does feel like there are scenes missing.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But overall, it's still a very entertaining movie, and you have Brittany Murphy and Michael Biehn giving really good performances in this, maybe even better than a movie like this would deserve. But it's entertaining.
Can we also talk about the killer for a minute? Because, and this is something that I did point out. Generally, when you get a slasher movie, the killer is wearing a big old hood or a mask or, like, something completely covering their face and shrouding any source of identity. Mm-hmm. Even Jason has the mask, but he also is wearing these, like, overalls. He's known for, like, jumpsuits and overalls. The killer in this is wearing a miniskirt and tights and boots. Oh, thank you.
Oh, hi.
Thank you for coming. The killer in this is wearing, like, boots and a miniskirt and a halter top, and they have very long hair. And instead of something, that's all that's covering the killer's face. Mm-hmm. So, in the same sense as, like, De Palma's Dress to Kill, you make an assumption. You have made up in your mind who this killer is before we know anything about him. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's that seems like something that's better than the movie deserves. Mm-hmm. Like, you'd expect just stab killer, but this one you're actually thinking about the killer throughout the film, and that's not something you generally get in a movie like this.
Yeah, there's certain sequences that really stand out to me. Like, so the first time we see Brittany Murphy, she's in a car with her boyfriend, and they're basically breaking up because she won't go all the way with him. And then the next day at school, it seems like a normal school setting, like the sun is out, we hear this like kind of, I don't know if it's electronic music. I don't
It's almost
really
like industrially.
remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see her just walking up the steps, and it seems like a regular day, and then she comes across her one friend, and her friend is like, open your eyes, and then she looks around and she sees like everyone like crying and hugging each other because 2 students were killed the night before. So that was done pretty well.
Which, by the way, this not Macaulay Culkin best friend, he's one of the best parts of the movie. He's the only over-the-top character.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only character that's wearing, like, everybody's kind of wearing black muted colors in this.
Yeah.
And he's the only one wearing, like, bright colors and animal print, and he has, like, crazy makeup on his face.
Yeah.
I like that character's there, and it's not done incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's, you know...
Or, like, even Brittany Murphy, look at the way she's dressed. Like, the way she's dressed in this movie reminds me a lot of, like, Daria. Like, she has, like, the short skirt and the combat boots, and she looks like she would be a misfit, yet everyone seems to like her. Yeah,
she looks like Fairuza Balk in The Craft.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like you said, it is more true to life. And this goes back to talking about how teenagers are idiots. It's almost more true to life in the sense that in other movies that happen in high schools, when they talk about, like, that clique system, like, those teenagers in those movies seem like they're in different worlds. And in this one, even though it is kind of shown that there are little cliques, they interact like humans, you know?
Yeah, like the big sex party, they're, like, everyone is involved, like, they're looking out for one another. And, so...
If that's what you want to call it.
The movie... It starts out, like, with this pretty serious tone. There are moments that are funny, but then, like, the last 20 minutes just go completely overboard. Like, there's lots of, like, campy moments. It's super entertaining.
But also... okay, are we spoiling this? We're spoiling this.
No, because...
No?
Just because, like, it was just released on streaming again, and most people might not have ever heard of this.
Then I'll keep it vague. There are parts at the end where the killer gives some reaction things that'll make you laugh. Like, knife in hand, turn a corner and go, ah! And it's so fun to watch because it's a killer that they've broken. They are completely mentally broken. They are now just a killing machine like that. They're focused on violence. But when you see it, it's the perfect amount of crazy. And it is like you laugh a little bit and then you go, ooh, like,
yeah. Or there's a scene where, like, you have your typical moments at the end of a movie where the killer
explains their whole plan.
No, like, you think the killer is dead, so you get a little bit closer to them, and then they're gonna do their final jump, and so that happens, and there's a character, and then someone else takes out the killer, but then it shows the character that the killer was gonna go after again, and, like, the hand is
stuck in their hair.
Yeah, it's so funny.
And it's funny because the movie's allowed to be funny without being deconstructive.
Yeah.
It's not deconstructing the horror genre. It's just a horror movie that has comedy elements. And it's done correctly.
Yeah.
Underrated. See again.
Yeah.
Like, big recommend on this one. Holds up.
Yeah, So I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure you can find it on DVD. I don't know if there's any special features or anything like that, and I don't believe the uncut version has ever been released, but you can watch it now on Shudder if you have the Shudder app. It was just released on Shudder
That's
this
where we watched
week,
it.
But yeah, definitely check it out.
Can we? Okay, we didn't talk about the Cruel Intentions characters that are, like, making fun. So there's one guy there's these two characters, and they come to nothing, but they have a couple of funny moments, and I think they're in there to kind of show not only that teenagers can be assholes, but that they can be completely callous.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one guy who is completely detached from the idea that his friends are dying, and he's only interested in how the next person's gonna die. And then there's this girl who is trying to make power plays, like use the killings to make herself more powerful in the world of these kids. And man, like it doesn't go. There's no subplot to them, but whenever they pop up, you're about to hear or see something funny.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because I don't really remember any of the characters' names, but visually they're played by people that we know now, like
right.
DJ Qualls,
yep.
A few other people, and it's just it's interesting to go back and rewatch this and see like who like, oh, this was what, one of Jesse Bradford's like
right.
first
and I couldn't believe
movies,
Jesse Bradford has no lines.
Yeah, he does. He's at the beginning of the movie.
Oh no, I'm thinking of oh shoot, the really skinny guy comedian with the nose.
DJ Qualls.
Him, yeah. No lines.
He has a few, but he's playing a very like shy character, so.
But he's like it's just funny to see this guy who now like is totally recognizable, but it doesn't have a big part in this movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, loved it. So Cherry Falls, available on Shudder. Somebody in one of the groups we're in posted that they have a VHS of it, which, how much would that cost now?
Oh, I don't know.
That would be ridiculous. But yeah, that's this week's Scene Again. All right, let's. We could go way deeper into this, but like I said, I think Scene Again is gonna have to be its own show next season.
I know.
Maybe Patreon. Ooh, Patreon.
Maybe.
Okay.
We have a lot to think about.
Yeah, but we got lots. We're gonna take a lot of time before we come back and. Now. Ooh, let me fix that. Over the course of the season, we've been constantly trying to think of videos, because a lot of these videos that we do for Themes to Be Heard, most people would have heard of, but this one is one that your favorite band probably heard of, and that's why they sound the way they do.
Yeah.
If you're a fan of 2010s pop punk, if you're a fan of a definite, oh my god, My Chemical Romance, is a direct descendant. Who else? What bands can you think of?
Oh gosh, tons. Even bands that didn't sound like them, like Blink 182, which I'll get into later because there was a specific inspiration there that was also tied with Taking Back Sunday. But this week we're talking about a Swedish hardcore punk band called Refused, and I've probably mentioned this many times on previous episodes that growing up that late 90s, early 2000s millennium era, my family had cable, and there was a channel called The Box where it was just 24/7 music videos, and you could pay to request a music video, and I believe this is where I would always see this music video, and it always stood out to me because the New Noise music video came out in 1998, and this was when the boy bands and Britney Spears were really starting to explode in popularity, so you weren't really seeing bands like this in the mainstream. And this was a Swedish hardcore band that formed in 1991, and this album, their album was called The Shape of Punk to Come, and they had this philosophy to the album where they wanted to challenge existing punk sensibilities and kind of think about how can like hardcore punk bands be anti-establishment if they're just using revolutionary lyrics in sounds that have already been exposed to the mainstream and that are accepted to the mainstream. So it might seem like, you know, something that we all know of now, especially after hearing nu metal and stuff, but at this time, Refused, they incorporated like post-hardcore, post-punk, electronic, jazz, like they incorporated all these different sounds into this album. So when it was released, it was a critical failure, it was a commercial failure, people didn't understand this sound, like I guess many people thought it sounded like a mess or something like that, because it did not sound like people were like, oh, this isn't punk, like that kind of attitude. And so this was not a successful album when it came out, but I remember always seeing this music video on like the box, and it's a very simple concept. We see like the band, they're just running around like in these different costumes, and they wear these different masks, and then it's essentially like a performance video, but it's very entertaining. And then there's lyrics like, how do you expect anyone to listen if we just hear the same old voice? We need new noise. And then there's lyrics about wanting to take back the airwaves, like that kind of thing. And it's like screamo.
And there's also lyrics where they purposefully sing, and they sing like old punk songs, and they sound and they use old punk style lyrics, and then while they do that, they use like canned laughter or like canned clapping, like you hear an audience applaud when they do that, and then after that is when the song actually gets angrier, because like, why do we have to do that for you to pay attention?
So that was something they did throughout the album, like in between songs they would have like these like political like sounds and stuff like that, even in New Noise, where the music kind of calms down again before it's going to go into another breakdown. There's a sample of Marlon Brando speaking from Apocalypse Now.
Yep.
So the way they made the album, they just infused all these different sounds, like recorded them separately and then put it all together and used like samples and stuff like that. So it's like a fusion. And at the time, I guess just no one understood it. And then the band ended up splitting up a few months after the release of the album, because they started touring in the U.S. for it, and the tour was canceled only after 8 shows. They had, speaking of Virginia, again, like we did with Cherry Falls, the last show that Refused did on this tour was in Virginia, and after only 4 songs, the police broke up the show. It was like very chaotic, so then the band ended up splitting up, and about a year after they split up, the album sales started to pick up, because then the stories of their final show started to become popular, and then other artists started citing them publicly as an influence.
Mm-hmm.
And now this album, you can see it on many like lists of like the 100 most influential punk albums ever made, or the most influential post-punk album of like the past 30 years, like stuff like that. And it's the music video. So the front man, his name is Dennis. At the time, he was really into surrealism and like political art and mod and soul music. So the idea for the video was like his, and the way it was directed. They really didn't have a concept for the video. They just showed up to this warehouse, and there was this guy there named Jock, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he was like, I rented all these Marshall amps, and they're all set up, and there's some costumes here and some masks, and there's a device that we're gonna have you swing upside down.
That's some of the coolest shots in the video are the lead singer upside down, and like the camera's swinging, and everybody's performing them standing upright behind him.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Like,
so. Yeah, they really didn't have a concept for the video. They went with it, and
which is funny because I was interpreting shit. I was making stuff up in my head. I was like, because there's some things that you go, oh yeah, and then to realize that there was actually nothing there. Actually,
yeah.
I mean, when left up to interpretation, the mind runs wild, I guess. But
it's hard to even find information on the music video. Like most bands, they'll have like a Wikipedia or something for their music videos. This band does not, so I had to dig deep into old interviews. And so they pretty much were making it up as they went along, and that's what we have now. And years later, MTV used to have like making the video, and like it was like the mid 2000s when bands like you started seeing more of the emo bands like Taking Back Sunday and stuff like that. And Taking Back Sunday had this music video called This Photograph is Proof, and there was a making the video episode of that on MTV, and that music video was directed by Tom DeLonge from Blink-182.
That's cool.
And they were in the middle of a tour, and they made the video in 48 hours, but I'm watching the episode, and they're talking to Tom DeLonge, and he was like, yeah, years ago there was this music video by this band called Refused, and they had all these masks. So I had the idea that I wanted Taking Back Sunday to wear these masks and stuff, and that's where the idea came from, was from that music video.
So cool.
But yeah.
I'm a fan of Taking Back Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've got a couple good ones.
I saw them live like 4 times.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you see them at Pitchfork?
No,
I know.
Tours.
That's just a different.
I used to go to a lot of concerts, but
anybody we listen to, she'll be like, "Oh, I saw him live." Anybody I listen to that she doesn't even care for, she'll be like, Schoolboy Q, I saw him live. And it's like, what? Okay, Kendrick Lamar, I saw him right when the first album came out. I was like, gee, okay, stop.
But the band was inspired by a lot of like older sounds and like jazz, and even the album title, The Shape of Punk to Come, was a reference to this 1959 avant-garde jazz album by Ornette Coleman called The Shape of Jazz to Come. But at the time it was misunderstood, but now you can see this album on all of the, influential lists, and other artists will now openly talk about the influence that Refused had on them. And the song New Noise has been featured in movies like Crank, TV shows like Friday Night Lights, Nitro Circus, video games like Doom, Tony Hawk's Underground. There was even
I played the shit out of Tony Hawk's Underground.
Yeah, there was even a baseball player, a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers, John Axford, and when he would close out games, New Noise would be his entrance music.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But it's a very, even, Steve Aoki, his first, like, album, it was called, like, Pillowface and the Airplane Chronicles or something like that. He did a remix of New Noise on that.
Okay.
He made it a little bit faster. It still pretty much sounds the same. It's just a little bit faster. But that was I believe, the opening track on that album. That was an album I used to listen to a lot. But over the years, the band has reunited. In fact, they reunited for the first time like around 2012 when another band at the drive-in that was kind of like the same genre also reunited.
Also highly influential band.
I love them. I'm a big fan of like the Mars Volta, and of course members of the Mars Volta were from At the Drive-In. But it's just, I don't know. It's funny how things come full circle like that, because then I believe both Refused and At the Drive-In were playing like Coachella and these big festivals when they decided to reunite. And yeah,
which is all. I also wanted to talk about something that we see pretty often in influential albums, or especially albums like this one, where the artist wasn't trying to make anything commercial. They were trying to make their own art. They were drawing from things that they were inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
Because those albums generally don't do well.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of albums. I mean, even when you look at and I don't care what anybody says, the original reception to Childish Gambino's Awaken My Love album was pretty negative. Because it wasn't what people wanted to hear from him, and they didn't know what to make of what they were hearing. He wanted to make like a funk album and a soul album, and people wanted to hear Because the Internet again.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime an artist, I'm sure you could come up with 3 off the top of your head of albums where the artist wanted to make art and it just didn't do well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because I don't think people do it consciously. I think it's an unconscious thing that the public does where they go, it doesn't sound like what I want to hear right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, 3, 4 years later...
Yeah, just a few years later,
that's
what's mainstream.
Yep, that's exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah. And this song, I think because of all those different fusions, it still feels fresh.
It does.
It was really ahead of its time, but it gets you pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. The video is really good. It's fun to watch. It's definitely deserving to be on all those lists, and you hear it now and you can hear all the bands that have, formed since then in this, and you can really hear the influence of the song now.
Yeah, you can hear all the bands that came after it in this.
Even the way they're dressed and styled in the music video with like the painted nails and
the shaggy hair,
like the kind of like the still preppy clothing, but
it's kind of ripped
just
up.
a few years later, many bands looked like that.
Everybody was gonna look like this in 5 years.
Yeah.
Because like they look like an emo band, Hawthorne Heights kind of thing. The Hawthorne Heights especially, like, and I'm pretty sure if you asked, that singer's name, I follow him on TikTok, the singer for Hawthorne Heights. He answers all. Go on TikTok and find Hawthorne Heights official. He answers everybody's questions.
Oh, that's nice.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I asked him if this song was influential, he'd make a full 3 minute. You know what I mean? Like, because this is exactly what Hawthorne Heights sounds like to me. Mm-hmm. And if you wonder where that sound comes from, this is where it would be. But the part of the song that gets me, actually, is there's a cool, like, call and response. Because there's 2 vocalists. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of the song that's this really cool call and response. We hear all the old songs. We sing all the old words. I don't know why I love that part of the song so much, but every time I hear it,
Oh, I know. And then, like, the slow drum that's beating. And then, like, the use of, like, the slow motion and stuff in the video. Like, years later, like... one video that specifically comes to my mind is AFI, the Leaving song, part 2, I believe.
Yeah.
There's that, like, it's, like, such an iconic looking shot where it's slow motion and the band is all jumping up in the air, like, in unison, and it's slow motion. Like, there's so much of that in this video.
There's also, like, you have the gif of a little bit of it there, but there's a dope-ass synchronized splits in this.
Yeah. It's the drop.
And they do great, like, and they're fully aware of what they're doing. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, oh, this is just cool stuff to do. Like, they're fully aware of a lot of, like, the movements and the thing. Like, they know what looks good. They know what sounds good in that moment. Mm-hmm. And to hear that it was kind of an unplanned, all right, let's just figure this out as we go, it's even more impressive.
Yeah.
Because we know what figuring it out as you go was like, and it's stressful. They probably only had that warehouse for 2 days, you know?
I'm not even sure. Like I said, it's hard to find, like, concrete information on the music video. Like, I'm just gonna assume that they listed Dennis, the frontman, as the director, because I can't even find like basic information like that. I just read in an old interview that they went to this warehouse and this guy that they knew who was also in other bands, like, had all this stuff there waiting for them. And
sounds like we're setting up the documentary we've always wanted to make. We're gonna make this into a documentary. Finding Refused. How did you make this video? And we're gonna talk to Tom DeLonge. We're gonna talk, you know what I mean? Like, that's the documentary. We figured it out. We've always wanted to make a documentary about something we like. That's gonna be it.
Yeah. It's so funny that this song came out, like, that same year that all those, like, boy bands and stuff were starting to rise. Because... yeah, this is, like, the type of song where if you're sick of hearing all that stuff, like, you hear a song like this and you're like, I understand that anger.
I wish I'd have heard this then. Like, I wish I would have heard this then. Because that would have been...
yeah, that's why it was, like, ahead of its time, because it was coming out around that same time. So, like, what were they, you know, reacting to, you know? Like...
right. And to hear the influence, you hear it, and it sounds now to us like that emo, screamo, post-punk kind of, but to hear that the influences of that were jazz and choral music and things like that, how did that work into making it what it was? I just want to talk to him. Like, I want to ask him the important questions here.
So, yeah, I'm not quite sure if they've actually, like, gotten together to record new music or if they've just done, like, reunion tours. I know that members of Refused have gone on to form, like, other bands, but definitely look into this song. You may have heard it before. Like, it has been used. You don't even realize. In many movies and shows and video games, but highly, highly influential and ahead of its time.
Absolutely. So that is Refused. New Noise. Mm-hmm. Check it out. and then tell everybody that we just found your new favorite song for you. Seriously, I'm not joking. I feel like we went through the first half of the show really fast.
I think maybe because we started late, we were trying to catch up, and then also we didn't want to spoil anything for Cherry Falls.
That's true.
So.
And we have quite a bit to cover on Southpaw tonight to finish it up. And
yeah.
All right, so tonight is like we said, the season finale of the show, but also the finale of our breakdown, our analysis of Antoine Fuqua's masterpiece, Southpaw. Let's see, can I... There. Boom. I did it.
Yay.
Yay, I did it.
Yay.
I don't know if anybody's if we have any former Viners out there, but one of my favorite Vines was the little girl standing on top of the kiddie slide, and then she goes to slide down and she just falls head over heels, and then she hits the ground, stands up and goes, "Yay, I did it." It's I say that once a day and nobody gets it, and it's kind of a bummer.
Oh.
That's like yeah.
I think I might have seen that original one, but didn't like people also take the footage of her sliding down and incorporate it into other videos?
No, you're thinking of the little girl that falls off the slide or off the swing and rolls backwards.
Yeah.
Because they like turned her into like the Wii bowling ball and stuff. Yeah, that was that poor girl's never gonna live that down. But I have a friend that I used to work with at Delta College. His name was Sam White. And me and Sam White, if somebody just barely pulls something off or like stumbles a little bit, yay, you did it! Like, but yeah, there's that. There was something else I was thinking of, and then I forgot what it was. But Viners, yay, you did it! So today is the end. It's another reason we were gonna be kind of late is because This is probably a larger segment than we were doing before. Instead of 15, 20 minutes, this is like a half-hour segment of the film that I tried to work in. So it's a little packed. It's a little dense. I tried to get as much as I could. I may have overlooked things on my analysis, but you know.
Yeah.
So. After where we left off, we get a cool establishing shot of New York City. I think it's the GW we get the shot of.
The GW
Bridge.
You know, I'm not sure if I ever crossed that bridge. I don't know.
I think it is.
I don't remember the bridges.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it cuts to Tick hitting a heavy bag. And he's over-swinging. He's actually doing all the things he's been telling Billy not to do. He's, like, over-swinging. Mm-hmm. He's making big, grunty noise. He's obviously emotional. And he's visibly upset. And when Billy walks in, he asks him, like, hey, who's winning? Because it obviously is him beating himself up. And this is where Tick, he stops and he looks at him, and there's no like setup, there's no sit down, it's not over dramatic. He just tells him that Hoppy died. And Billy actually it doesn't look like he reacts, but when you hear something like that in real life, you're gonna be in shock for a second. You're not gonna react right away. There's not gonna be like an, oh my god. He's like, I'm sorry, what?
Kind of like me, because I completely forgot that happened in this movie.
Yeah. So Hoppy, his parents came back to the house, and they were fighting, and he tried to protect his mom from his dad, and his dad shot him to death. Mm-hmm. So Tick is kind of questioning why he does what he does in the first place. What's the point? He tells Billy, I should have listened to you when you brought up that you were worried about him. because he kind of brushed it off. If you go back to when he was offered the shot for that exhibition fight against Buzzsaw Brady, when Billy brings up that Hoppy, he's a little worried about Hoppy, Tick kind of brushes him off a little bit. Don't worry about it. This happens sometimes. We'll figure it out. And when you see the film, if you're watching this analysis without seeing the film,
sorry.
Probably shouldn't have watched this far into the show. But also, like the just the short scenes and the little interactions we see between Billy and Hoppy, there's a connection there. Mm-hmm. Hoppy really looks up to him, and Billy is really enjoying having someone to teach, to be a person. And now that young life is gone, and he takes he's like holding onto the heavy bag and crying. Like he's holding himself up by holding the heavy bag and crying. And then they have this conversation sitting in the ring with their back on the ropes, which is another kind of little piece of symbolism that
What?
Okay, good friend of the show and former co-host Eric Burt just texted me and said, please put the mustache back on. It's kind of weird.
No.
Oh,
By
I love
the way,
it.
I hope our audio has been working correctly this whole time. Can you imagine if we went to go work on our clips and...
Well, I think it picked up. It just wasn't very loud. It's like the first half of the show is not going to be very loud because the mic wasn't where it was supposed to be. I wonder how it moved. Anyway,
Dyson.
But we're still going to be able to hear us. It's just not going to be as good as usual. Where was I? I'm sorry. I'm gonna. So they're sitting with their back on the ropes. They're sitting inside of the ring, and they're having a conversation. And Tick is really questioning, what is the point? He says, "I teach these kids, you're the master of your own destiny. You can control how you feel. You can control the world. You can control the world around you. You can. He says it's all bullshit. You can't control anything. Like, he is questioning whether or not what he's doing makes a difference. And this is kind of where we see a little change, because Billy is now the one teaching him from his experience. Tick asks if Billy really thinks he can beat Miguel. And he says, no, not without you. So he makes him promise that if he corners him in the fight against Miguel, he has to keep doing the things that they've been doing. He has to keep doing them from now on. He has to stay calm. He has to focus on his breathing. He has to focus on protecting himself and her. Not just in, but also outside of the ring. And it cuts to the courtroom. The judge reinstates Billy's custody. She pulls all the restrictions. She says the unification will start in a week. So he gets Layla back.
He seems like a completely different person at this point, too.
Yeah. He's calm. Even when he finds out about Hoppy, he doesn't get mad. I'm going to go beat his dad up. He cares more about taking care of Tick in that moment. So they show that that him and Layla are not... She's looking at my notes and really trying to read them, and she's not going to be able to do it. Can you read any of it?
No.
I didn't think so. But they show the two of them living in Billy's little apartment. And this is one of the cool little pieces of symbolism that I saw. It's the first... Actually, I believe this is the first thing I saw in the movie that made me go, wait, I gotta go back and watch all of it. Was there more things like that? Because they're talking, and he's like, hey, honey, do you want me to make you... I think I got some eggs. I don't really have much. It must have been the day that she came home to live with him. I have some eggs. Do you want an egg? Are you hungry? Do you need anything? And when he's saying that, it shows her with a juice box. She takes a drink and she puts it down. Now, in the conversation that happens here, it cuts slightly lower every time while they're talking. And by the time we see all of Billy's, like a full bust shot of Billy, he has the juice box.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation explains it. Because he goes, you look upset. Why are you upset? And she goes, you treat me like or you think I'm a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I don't think you're a baby. I just, I worry and I have to take care of you. And your mom was the one that made the decisions. Your mom made decisions because she knows I have a hard time with decisions. I don't do very well. And she says, I know. And he goes, what do you know? You don't know anything. And she goes, Mom always said, I'm not going to cry. Mom always said we had to take care of you.
Well, she's also upset, too, because she really wants to go to the fight.
Yes. And that comes up slightly after this.
The juice box thing, though, I remember the first time we watched it together, you were like, no, watch this.
Watch the juice box.
Watch the juice box. Like, this was the scene that it was like you were trying to show off or something. You were like, you watch this and I'll explain what it means.
But it's a good, like, it's the first thing I saw in the movie that was like, wait, is there more to this than just a boxing movie? Mm-hmm. And there is.
Well, yes, there's boxing and there's juice boxes.
Juice boxing.
Yes.
I quit.
I know.
Anyway.
We're done with this season. It's over.
She asks if they can go to Moe's grave.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to watch. She tells her mom that she misses her. Like, she's, like, talking to the grave. And she said she turns around and she's got her back to the grave now. And it's almost like her and Moe are talking to Billy now. And she says, I'm going to the fight. And even if you don't want me in there, I'll watch from the dressing room. And at this point, like, it's almost like he's being ganged up on again by the two of them. So he's like, he concedes that she can stay in the dressing room. But he also explains to her, and this is the part where he's not treating her like a baby anymore. He's teaching her the reality of life sometimes, because this is where he says, look, these people, they're going to say some crazy things. You're going to hear the announcers say things that you don't know about. You're going to hear the announcers say some things that aren't true. And I need you to understand that not everything you hear is true, and some of what you hear might be hurtful. And she's like, that's okay. I can do that. Like, and that's what he needed to do, and she understands that that's something she needs to do to grow up correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool conversation in that moment.
It's interesting when you think about it too, because like Billy saying that now to Layla, like, don't pay attention to that, like, it makes you wonder, like, is that him also saying that to himself as well? Because he probably would have reacted to some of that stuff beforehand.
Definitely. And also, like, what if he had understood that same advice, the year prior?
Yeah.
He says, some of this is going to be really scary. And she says, was Mom ever scared? And you can tell he wants to lie. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a moment where he looks at her and you almost, like, as the audience, you say, tell her she never was. And he's like, every time. Because we go back to the beginning of the movie, her, like, picking up all the bloody towels and the whole conversation about Billy's face. She was always scared. And he was like, this is going to be scared. Like, he's telling her, it's not, you're going to be scared. Mm-hmm. But he's also getting her ready. Because we see that is necessary later in the film. When Eminem's song Phenomenal hits, I cry and I get super pumped at the same time. This is the obligatory montage. This gets a little montagey right here. We see him doing rope work. We see, what else is he doing? Mitts. They're actually doing a cool thing with a fan. I don't know if you saw the fan. Where they have a folding fan, only it's folded up, and he has to keep it moving.
Yeah.
That's actually like a real thing that you see people do. What else? I have notes. I do.
Don't we also see like Escobar training well?
Yes. Okay. That's one of the things that I did want to talk about, though, and I'm glad you brought that up. We see Escobar in an open workout.
Yeah.
So the media's there, they're watching him, he's talking to him, and his trainer is Ellie.
Yeah.
Which we don't know how Ellie used to train Billy. We never saw that. So when we see Ellie doing mitt work and having everything we see Escobar doing, everything we see Miguel doing, is all almost only for being a better athlete. Like, we see him working on his abs, we see him lifting weights, we see him doing push-ups. It's not very much that we see him working on boxing skill work. Like
strategy and stuff like that.
We see him working almost on the aesthetics. Yeah. That's a good point. But also, everything that we see Billy doing up to this point, and this is where we see him working on what's called a step-through counter. Now, the step-through counter, when you do it correctly in the orthodox standing position, you end up in Southpaw. So if you're standing with your right hand back, because your right hand's your strong hand, and you throw that, you step through, which is where you kind of pretend that your wrist and your ankle are tied together, and they can't move off of that line away from each other. They're always in line with each other. When you do that, you end up with your other hand back, and you're now in the complete opposite stance that you were before you threw it. You've made a complete change, a full turn. There's a moment where we see Jake Gyllenhaal doing that work, and it is fire. Like, we see Jake Gyllenhaal doing mitt work, and I got hyped up. I was like, ooh. Because, like, we see him, like, kind of punching Matt, doing uppercuts. That's fine. And the Tick character, like, Forrest Whitaker's character walks up, and he goes, no. We need to see him doing pivots. We need to see him doing switches. We need to see him doing head work. And the guy holding the mitts is like, all right. So we see him doing some of, like, it's not over theatrical. A lot of theatrical head work or mitt work that you see in things like Rocky movies is almost choreographed. It's happening at this super fast speed that, like, in no way is physically possible even by the best boxers in the world. But in this, we see Jake Gyllenhaal seeing, reacting, punching, seeing, reacting, and just watching his eyes. He legitimately learned how to do this correctly because he's looking in the right places and he's moving the right way. And I got a little geeked. I was like, hey, that's good work. Even for, like, real boxers, what he's doing there is half decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Inspires you to want to go back to the gym, and then the next day comes and you're like, well, I'll just drink chocolate milk and watch Rock of Love marathons.
Are you still talking about me?
No, me.
Okay. So there comes a point in this almost like montage scene where we see the center line again. And this is where the center line becomes the most of its metaphor that it actually is in the movie. Hi!
Hi.
Dyson has come to say hi, everybody. Say hellos. Oh.
He moaned.
He did. He said hellos. The center line isn't just one... Oh, my God. Are we not paying attention to you?
Oh, we're not.
Nope. So, earlier in the movie, when we saw the center line, we saw the most basic version of it. It's one line straight across the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you look at where he started on that line, he says to Tick, "My wife would have really liked you."
Yeah.
At the beginning of that line, he has accepted that he's going to have to do this without her.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see him work through those lines. So now the center line drill has become a metaphor for the problems he's been facing the entire film. When we see the center line during this montage, it is, oh my god. All right, Dyson break, everybody. So,
oh, my puppy.
Nice of you to join us.
He has some things to say.
Yes, apparently whatever it is very important.
He is very upset. There were no animals in this movie, and he would have liked to see a character portrayed by a dog.
Usually in boxing gyms, you get dogs. People bring their dogs to the gym all the time.
Aww.
Yeah. Like especially like pro gyms.
Yeah.
Boxers bring their dogs to the gym all the time.
Aww.
All the time.
Oh yeah, I do remember we were watching UFC one night, and there was a guy, and they were like interviewing him in the gym, and there was like a dog there, like another fighter's dog was just hanging out.
Also, Amanda Nunes is really notorious for bringing her dog. And Giga Chikadze apparently takes his dog everywhere.
I completely understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at him.
Thank you for stopping the entire show just to focus on Dyson.
I just want to take him everywhere.
He makes it easy.
Yeah.
He's smiling right now.
He's the goodest boy.
He is the goodest boy. Okay. But apparently we weren't paying attention to him. He really needed to jump into the show. I don't know who's watching.
I woke up and you weren't there.
I don't know if we edit this all the way out when we upload it, but
well, I'll just clip this into a segment of its own.
Yeah. Welcome to the Dyson Show. Are you done now? Can we continue? No,
He's
apparently
like,
not.
This show needs to be retitled Treats to be Seen.
Oh, good one.
He's like, get out of here, Ma.
All right, we do need to keep going.
Just keep going. I'll hold him like this.
Okay, this makes this look legit.
It is legit.
Okay. Anyway, so now when we see the center line, we see that it's multiple lines all tied in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
They wrap around each other. They go in different directions. And one of the things... Now, I have one... there's one underlying theme that needs to be pointed out here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one slight criticism of the film that I'm going to make. One of the things is that now all those lines represent all the problems Billy's been working around.
Yeah.
And he can properly defend and he can work his way around them properly. He can move through them and he can handle them in a way where he's not going to get hurt. But because before he would just walk straight down that line and whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's moving around them. We see him moving his head. We see him ducking, blocking, carding his eyes. He now understands how to navigate those problems in and out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the metaphor isn't in your face, but subconsciously every viewer would understand,
What is your criticism?
Oh, we never actually see Jake Gyllenhaal doing the drill. We see him under one line.
Yeah.
We don't see him turning pivots between them. I would like to have seen him doing the footwork of turning pivots between the lines, because you're supposed to go under and then change the angle you're standing on so that you end up in the right spot with a line on one of your shoulders. So we don't actually see him doing that. We see him doing one still, but we don't see him doing the center where there's multiple. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
I'd like that. It was probably one of my favorite drills to do when I was fighting. Was the center line, especially when you got like 5-6 of them. Anyway, when we cut out from this montage of seeing Miguel, and which also we see Billy wearing a I don't know if you saw the mask he was wearing when he's doing like the medicine ball. He's wearing a mask. What that does is it makes your body think that you're working out at a higher altitude.
Oh.
So it cuts down on the oxygen intake you're taking, and it makes your lungs work harder for the same amount. So you're actually working your lungs like a muscle while you're working out. And that also raises your white blood cell count, or your red blood cell count, so that once you're done working out and you do... Hi. Thank you. Once you're done working out and you go to rest... all the excess of red blood... He's really listening to me.
I know.
The excess of red blood cells will speed up the recovery from the working out. It's not necessarily something I would recommend for everyone because it really, really hurts. Like, if you get done doing elevation training, generally you fall to your knees and cry for an hour because it feels like your chest is going to explode.
Is this something that is usually done, or
Constantly.
because he had only 6 weeks to train for this, is it something that they were doing because he had less time?
It's something you see in professional camps when the question is cardio. When the fighters' ability to retain their stamina throughout the entire duration of the fight is in question, that's when you'll see elevation training.
Yeah, because how many rounds are there in boxing? There's
12.
Yeah.
There's 12 3-minute rounds. Which generally I don't think you've ever watched much boxing. Or you've probably only watched mixed martial arts.
Mostly that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in boxing, it's it used to be 15 rounds. And since we've been alive, I believe it was 1997 or 98, is when they realized that the reason boxers died as often as they did is because of those last 3 rounds.
Oh.
So they cut 15, 14, and 13 off.
What would be the difference in just 3 additional rounds, though?
That the amount of punches taken post-injury in those 3 rounds was generally significantly higher. So up to 12 rounds, you're taking maybe 200 to 300 punches in a high volume fight. In a super high volume fight, you can see 450 punches. But then you add that 15 more minutes, and you're looking... That's right when cardio walls break, and fighters forget that they have to breathe. Like, there comes a point where you go, I don't feel like I have to breathe anymore.
Yeah.
And you just go, well, now you're both injured, and you're both in shock. And so you're injuring each other while in shock. And guys were dying. I mean, that's how it's always been. Guys usually died in the 14th round. And they cut those off. So now professional boxing is generally, especially championship fights, are 12 rounds. So this is, but also one of the things they did is they went from 15 rounds with 45 seconds between rounds, which, how grueling is that? To now they're minute-long rests. That minute feels like nothing. I don't know how many people, like, and that's why if you ever watch professional boxing, when somebody goes to their corner, you see 5 guys jump in, and they're all it looks like a NASCAR pit crew. because that's what needs to happen in order to get what needs to get done in a minute. Somebody's got the cold compresses on their cheeks. Somebody's putting water on their head. Somebody's giving them water. Somebody's putting ice on their knees. This is also, and then the head coach has to be there working with that. First off, you have to make sure that they're still there. And secondly, you have to make sure that they understand the adjustments they have to make. Because if there's no communication there, they have already lost. Anyway, where were we? I feel like I got a little off there, but that's the point
training,
of this. Okay,
basically.
that ends.
Yeah.
And what we see as soon as the montage is over is that Layla is at the fight and she's been brought by Angela. Mm-hmm. So her social worker, who is now not even her social worker, who just believes in them. She's just a person who wants them to do well, is now sitting with Layla in the dressing room to watch the fight. There's a couple. It looks like there's a couple like no-name guys in suits there that I believe are just officials. They're just like kind of like venue security or something, just hanging out to make sure that they're okay. We see Billy walk out to the fight.
No song.
No endorsements. No hype. Mm-hmm. We do get Roy Jones Jr. as one of the announcers here. And he says that, and we hear him say, and this is another cool thing about having the announcers almost do the exposition of the film. Because it is how it is in real life. The announcers build the story for you watching a fight. Mm-hmm. In this instance, it's used for the sake of a story. So it's kind of a cool way to tell it. But he says that sometimes, especially in situations like this, you want to take yourself out of it and let the audience be your music. When there's this much buzz, when there's this much hype, and you've already said that this is what it is, this is all it is a fight, let the audience decide what it sounds like when you get there. And I feel like that's a good, like, it's, and Roy Jones Jr., to his credit, he doesn't sound like he's acting here. He sounds like he's calling a fight. Roy Jones, another boxer who now is coming out about his complications with post-traumatic syndromes. Mm-hmm. He probably has, between his amateur and professional career, 290 fights in his career. So, our heart goes
That's
out to you.
That's a
lot. I had 175 amateur fights.
Wow.
But like, he's one of the greatest boxers of all time, and I wish him all well because he was a huge inspiration to me growing up, in and outside of the ring, because he's also a really good person, huge in charities. Now, conversely, when we know Miguel is walking out to the ring, because before his music even starts, he's doing like a hype up of himself. Like before the music starts, there's a clip of him going, Miguel Escobar, magic, da da da, and then there's this like over the top like hip, like almost drill beat. That, get over yourself, dude. It's almost like too much. But also we get more from the announcers here, because what they do is they give context that we wouldn't be able to the audience who's not a deep boxing historian would understand. Generally, when famous boxers come from Colombia, they are heavy hitters. They punch heavy. That's what they do well. Colombian fighters are hard punchers. Now, what they explain here is that Miguel, while hitting hard, is also technically sound, and that's why he is so great. So they're giving us the stakes. The movie's telling us this is why this guy's dangerous, because we haven't actually gotten to see him. But what they're saying is also historically accurate in real life. Famous Colombian Ricardo Morales, Mario Escobar, these real life fighters who won championships in one weight class or another, were known for being, guys that took heads off. And that's really all they were. But, which I'm not going to get into a full philosophical boxing rant about how where you're from and the way you grow up affects how you box, because it's all true, and I could teach a college course on it. I literally could tell you why how you grow up and the things that have happened to you and the environment around you would turn you into one kind of a boxer or another. And then I'd have to teach you of all the different archetypes of boxers and how different boxing styles work. We're not going to do that here. This isn't a boxing show, but I could. That would be an interesting thing to do.
That's what the Patreon will be for.
Ooh, I'll do that on Patreon. If anybody would listen to it, it would be like 5-hour-long episodes, but I'd do it.
Good grief.
So we talk about Colombia, and they explain. Now, I guess I do have to explain one archetype of boxer. Maybe two. I'll kind of get into what Billy is, but when Roy Jones Jr. says that he's an excellent boxer puncher, that means that he is a technically sound boxer, like in the art form, but he's offensive. Everything he does comes from behind hard punches. So, not much of a defensive guy, but he forces the tempo of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something we actually see and is actually reinforced in the fight that we watch. You are out of this episode already.
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. When Miguel gets to the ring, we see two people with him in particular. It's Ellie Cross, who used to be Billy's trainer, and Jordan Maines. Walks in with Escobar. Not even hiding the fact that he's screwing Billy over. And he actually leans over to Miguel and says, I only gave him 6 weeks to train. Like, he did it purposefully to put Billy at a disadvantage. And he's smiling. Shout out to Curtis Jackson. He plays a good asshole in this movie. He plays a good, like, shisty guy. Because he gives this smile to Billy and he waves. And it's this very, like, slimy. The referee of this fight, real life legendary referee Tony Weeks, who has been around forever, ever since I was a little kid, like before I was a little, like he's always been a referee my entire life. Right away, when the fight starts, he takes a lot of punches right off the bat. He's in the style of defense that we saw him in the beginning. He's just holding his hands out. He's leaving a big space right here. And Miguel is throwing his jab right down Billy's getting hit a lot.
And there's a lot of cool, like, point of view shots and stuff like that, too. So it makes you feel like you're really right there. And, like, you get the point of view of, like, punches coming at you or, like it's you throwing the punches, so that was pretty cool. It is.
It's a cool thing that they do, especially when it puts you in Billy's shoes. And when the announcers start talking at the beginning of this fight, they explain it as Miguel being the technical, more thoughtful boxer, and Billy being a physical brawler. And when you first hear that, and all you've really seen of Billy for the past half hour is what he did against Buzzsaw Brady, you go, no, fuck you. Like, physical brawler? Come on. Like, give him a little credit. But that's how it is in real life. We never give the hard work the credit it deserves until we see it in front of us. I explained it to somebody this past year as a painter. Everybody looks at art and says, oh, what a beautiful painting. But nobody ever looks at the work that it took to get that painting there. So the actual work that the artist had to do probably was very emotional and difficult and hurt. But then we look at this painting and we go, there it is. So when you're watching a fight, now, and I'm talking right to the audience, when you're watching a professional wrestling match, when you're watching a mixed martial arts fight, a boxing match, a jiu-jitsu grappling match, remember that what you're seeing is the end product.
That's very true. And not to be super cheesy, but sometimes it is about that journey and the way you get there. And with the painting, it was probably a lot to do with the performance of the painting.
Mm-hmm. So when you see a fight, or like even as far as like professional wrestling, these guys put themselves through a lot, and everything up to that point is the work. The fight is actually the fun part. The fight is what's it called? The end, the
finale?
Yeah,
conclusion?
Never mind. I'll think of it later. But like, I can't think of the word.
The fight itself is only like 25 minutes of this, like,
yeah.
however long
right.
journey it took to get there.
And most of the time, like especially yesterday, we watched one of the coolest, most technical fights we've ever seen from, like, a dangerous fight. Either guy could have won at any minute. Mm-hmm. Two of the best fighters in the world. And we watched them fight for 25 minutes. Everything they did, that was 25 minutes, and they've been training for that for 6 months. Like, their entire life for that past 6 months focused on last night, 25 minutes.
Yep.
And we saw one guy kind of bummed out when he lost. And that just, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Technically, he fought probably somebody who's going to be considered one of the greatest of all time. And Israel Adesanya. But, like, he also is a future Hall of Famer. Bobby Knuckles, we love you. Anyway, so they call Billy a physical brawler, which will piss you off if you've been watching the movie. And then, right after I say that, like, because Escobar's landing a lot of jabs. He actually has a pretty cool jab. I don't know. I didn't even look into who the guy playing Escobar is, because there's not a lot about him.
I thought that you had said he was like a rapper.
That's the guy from, that's the guy that plays the boxer in Creed, is a rapper. He's like a British rapper.
I thought he was really a rapper though. Hold on a second. We'll look into this quickly.
Okay. Anyway, he's got a really cool jab style where his jab actually comes up from his knee. Mm-hmm. And that's something you see in like a sniper style of boxer, especially guys who hit really hard from far away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the first artist officially signed to Jay-Z's Rock La Familia label.
Oh, so he's like a reggaeton guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And currently he stars on FBI Most Wanted, the CBS crime drama series.
Oh, well, I'm glad he's still working.
Mm-hmm.
He starts, after he lands in this first round, and actually for the first 4, we see him kind of showboating. He's kind of playing with his backhand. He's kind of moving his head in front of Billy. And Billy's not really doing much. Mm-hmm. He's getting hit a lot. One of the announcers even says that he's doing the opposite of what boxing is, because boxing's supposed to be hitting and not getting hit, and he's getting hit and not hitting, which is it's kind of is what he's doing here. But when you think back, like, he's not putting his face out there and just swinging, mm-hmm. but he is getting hit enough. He might still have to get hit to get to that place. He might still have to, you know, take a little bit to put him in that mindset. But instead of getting there and then freaking out and just letting it take over, mm-hmm. using it, channeling it. We also see Escobar, you know, when in the first fight that we watch, where he fights Jordan Jones, mm-hmm. and I talk about how what he does to win that fight, where the referee moves out of the way, says fight, and then Billy kind of jumps past him. And I'm like, it's not a dirty punch, but it's frowned on. We see Miguel do the exact same thing here. Especially, I think it's in the third round he does it. In the corner, after that, Billy addresses his speed. He sits down and he goes, that motherfucker's fast. And Tick's like, you're faster. You just have to focus. You're not using it. Which we hear Tick Wills giving constructive corner work. We hear him tell it, all right, but you're faster. You just have to use it correctly. You're not moving your head. You're not working on the pivots. You're not doing this and that we've worked on. In Escobar's corner, we hear Ellie going, you're beating his ass. Good job. You're going to win this. No problem. It is exactly what Ellie was doing to Billy.
Yeah.
It's not helpful.
Just more hyping him up, not giving him actual useful insight.
We watch Billy lose rounds, and they kind of cut between rounds, but we watch him lose rounds 1 through 4. We see a lot of highlights of Escobar punching very fast, and then we see that Billy now has a cut on his left eye.
Yeah.
He's bleeding, and actually, I don't know who did the practical work on this, but the blood running into the eye, and you can see the blood on his actual eye. Kind of gross. Yeah, I can feel it. I saw it. The first time I watched the movie, I saw it, and I went, "Oh, I know what that feels like," because it's a really weird, slimy burning, and I can't even explain it. Because blood is. This is gonna be gross. Blood is gritty. Blood has grit to it, and so when you get it in your eye and then you blink, it's it burns. It hurts. Especially when it's running from where his is, which is the most dangerous spot right above the eyebrow. So whoever did this, whoever picked all this, knew what they were doing. Loses rounds 2 through the super fast jump. We do see him really early on. Any success we see him having is him going to the body. Which when you hear boxers talk about how to move forward in a fight where you know you are at a speed disadvantage, you go to the body. Because eventually, that person's going to have to slow down. It takes stamina away over time. One of the reasons I believe that we talk about that the movie shows this open up so fast, because I believe it only they show it happening in a second round, is Billy, when we hear about him, even the announcers in this fight say, it's not a Billy Hope fight unless there's some blood. Fighters over time build scar tissue. Scar tissue opens up way faster than regular skin. So whenever you have scar tissue over your eyebrows or under scar tissue on the sides of your mouth or in the middle, that tends to break and bleed way faster than just skin would, or just skin with fatty tissue under it. So I believe one of the reasons we see this happen so fast is because Billy, as a character, would have all this scar tissue all over his face. We always see him bleeding.
And then Layla is kind of freaking out about it too.
Yes. Layla, this is you read my next note, or you did. I don't know if
I
you
didn't read the note because I can't read the note, but perhaps I read your mind.
That's legitimate. Layla actually gets down, and we see her getting really worried. She gets down on her knees and gets really close to the TV, and she's saying, he's hurt. He's he's hurt. Angela, actually, instead of being, it's okay, she puts her hands on her shoulders and she says, if he was actually hurt, they'd stop the fight. He's okay. And it's the right thing to do here. She doesn't baby her. She says, if he's actually hurt, if they think he's in danger, they'll stop the fight. And the actress who plays Layla gives this perfect little nod. Okay.
Naomi Harris.
No, the one that plays.
Oh, Layla.
Una.
Shoot.
Una.
Yeah, Una.
Damn it.
But it makes you wonder because, like, Angela is able to...
Una Lawrence.
Yeah, calm her down that way. It's like, does she watch boxing? Is she familiar?
You think there's a chance, because actually later at the very end of the movie, you kind of get a sense that she's a bit of a boxing fan. His eye being cut actually turns out to be a blessing. Not because it gets him to that place mentally where he used to need to be, but now Miguel is only targeting that eye.
Yeah. We
see Billy pull up what's called a Philly shell, where you're guarding your eye with your shoulder and your hand. And we see him very tightly guarding this back, it would be this one, this back eye. Now what he's doing is he's waiting for him to try to hit that eye and then countering every time. And we see this really cool combination probably 6 times in the movie where he parries 1, 2. And we see him do it like over and over. Bing, boom, boom. And it becomes a rhythm in the movie where you just see him do it. And the reason he gets back into the fight is because the only thing Miguel can think to attack is that one weak spot now. Mm-hmm. And Billy knows all I have to do is defend this one weak spot, and he's going to fall into it every time. So the cut on his eye ends up being the blessing he needed, the thing he needed to protect. Which the Philly shell is also the mark of a great counter-punching boxer. So using a cut eye as bait is something that actually happens in real life quite often. We see, after he lands a couple of those, we see Billy pressing the action. He's really walking Miguel down. After this round where we see him start to pick up steam, he sits back in the corner and he looks at Ellie and he goes, "I can't hit that motherfucker, bro." And you're like, oh wait, but Billy was just talking about how he was sick of getting hit by you. So if you feel like you can't hit him, what shot do you have now? Because all you had was hitting. After this round, this is a really cool thing because Billy kind of sees an avenue for success now. And we see him get up. We see him passionate again. He looks like he wants to be in the ring again. He gets passionate. He starts moving. And from that point on, the little pieces of the fight we see, Billy's winning. Billy's counterpunching. He's moving. He's ducking. He's actually some pretty awesome boxing choreography.
You are getting so excited.
Like, it really, like, if you're a boxing fan and you see some of this stuff, you inadvertently do like, woo! Like, yeah, if you're a fan of the art of boxing, you see some of the stuff they put in this movie, and you go, oh, yeah. Oh, like, it's what you want to see.
It looks very realistic, too. Like, I kept forgetting that it was just a movie fight that we were watching.
It looks like it's shot like you're watching like Showtime fights or something. Yeah. It cuts back to a corner. Once we get to the next corner that we sit in, Tick is talking to Billy, and he says, "You're doing what we need you to keep doing. What you're protecting your eye. You're using your defense. You are doing the things that's going to win you this fight. Mm-hmm. Now I need you to go out." And this is where we see a little bit of a switch here, because Billy's actually sitting in the corner very calm. He's so calm. He's got his chin in his chest. He's just letting the blood flow out of his... and he's taking deep breaths. And Tick is the one going, "Beat his ass! Beat his ass!" So they've now, like, reversed roles.
Yeah.
Tick is the passionate one. Billy is the one that has pushed it up, has, driven it all to a place. When Miguel sits down in this round that we see, Ellie's like, "You gotta move faster, you gotta hit harder." And he actually grabs Ellie by the shoulder and says, "You were his trainer. Tell me how to beat the fucking guy."
Mm-hmm.
But Ellie doesn't know because this is a different boxer. I just love it so much. When I just wrote shoulder because, and I even pointed it out. There's a part in this movie.
Shoulder roll? Roll and uppercut?
I'm glad that you could you sussed that out. I'm proud of you.
I can read.
There's actually a really cool piece of choreography where Miguel's throwing his cross and we see Billy do one of the best moves in boxing is a shoulder roll where you guard with your shoulder and you parry the punch. You let the punch roll off of your shoulder, and then as your hips are turning with the punch, you follow with a punch on the opposite side. We see him shoulder roll into an uppercut. It's a good piece of choreography because you inadvertently go, "Oh!" Like everything in this movie, like I said about Kiss of the Dragon, looks like it has impact. Everything looks like it's actually connecting.
Yeah.
And this is where Escobar starts to have to play dirty. Because they end up in the corner, and Escobar ties up, and he goes, "That's right, bitch, your wife can't save you now." And Billy gets over-emotional again. He starts screaming, he's pushing officials, because the round has ended. And we're going into the 12th. We're going from the 11th to the 12th. This is the last round. And Billy has reached that emotional place again, that destructive place, because Escobar said that. The speech we get from Tick when he sits back in the corner is one of the most emotional things.
Oh, yeah, and before that, too, Layla is watching, and she's screaming at the TV. She's like, "What did he do to my daddy?"
Yeah,
and
what did he,
upset.
Right, what did he do? Because this isn't the Billy that we've seen the whole fight.
Yeah.
Long. What did he do?
So she knows that something is very wrong.
And that's also emotional when she turns around and she's got tears in her eyes. And then Tick gives this speech. God is watching you. I'm watching you. Your daughter's watching you, and your wife is watching you. Billy looks over to his right to the seat that Maureen usually sits in, and John is sitting there. And he has his wedding ring on a necklace. So, regardless of whether she's actually there or not, there comes this point in Billy's head where he takes what Tick just said and he understands that even though she's not physically here, she's still here. Everything she did is still here for us. And it's shot really well too, because there's this like white light that comes down over John in the moment. In the last round, Miguel lands a low blow. He punches Billy in the crotch.
Yeah.
And they take a point away. So even if Miguel wins the whole round, it could just be an even round. Generally, when a point is taken away and somebody wins the round still, it becomes a draw round. In the only moment of what's called naked offense, where you just throw punches without guarding, without thought of what's going to come back, Tick is yelling, "Do it now," and he throws this perfect jab and then this step through Southpaw uppercut. This shot of Escobar falling after taking this uppercut.
Because then he uppercuts and then he's still swinging again, but he's falling, so we see...
Like, he's like following through on nothing.
Yeah, but then, so we see from that angle that it misses him, but then there's that angle from behind where
he's
falling
like,
in slow motion.
It's in this excellent slow motion.
Yeah.
It's almost like time has stopped.
Yeah.
And, like, you see Escobar spit, and, like, his eyes are closed. He's totally laid out. Billy's, like, following through on a punch that didn't land.
it's just an amazing shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want that shot as a poster.
Yeah.
Like, because it is that cool looking. Then there's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about when you're watching, especially boxing or mixed martial arts, are the lights. Because lighting comes straight down at the small space of area. So when, like, the spit and the sweat and the lights are hitting all of it in such a cool way.
And I'm trying to imagine, like, the choreography, because it was just so realistic how, like, yeah, he knocked him out, but then he was still gonna follow up with yet a third punch. So the way that was executed, I felt like I was watching a real fight.
Also because it's not dramatic. He doesn't go,
Yeah.
like, it happens fast. Boom, boom. And then that's what, like, after that, because he throws it, and then that uppercut happens, and that's when it slows down. And the time on the final round runs out before Miguel can stand up. So he's saved by the bell.
Yeah.
Doesn't count as a knockout. But he stands up. It goes to a split decision. Now, for anybody watching the show, I have to explain how the scoring system in combat sports works. Ready for this masterclass? For every round, one fighter wins and one fighter loses per round. The winner generally gets 10 points. The loser generally gets 9 points for each round. So ideally, if you win every round, you will have 120 points at the end. Split decisions are because there are 3 judges scoring every round individually. So, judges 1 and 2 can score a fight with they can have different scores, but still have one person getting more points than another person, while the third judge disagrees. That's a split decision. Unanimous decisions is where all 3 judges see the same thing. Okay, now that we have that out of the way. This is the only over-dramatic part of the movie, is when these... But in real life, split decisions are read dramatically on purpose. They always read... Whenever a split decision is read, the winning card for this person is read, and then the winning card for this person is read, and then the dissenting decision, the one that actually chooses the winner, is read last. So, Billy wins a split decision, probably based only on that last punch he threw. Which actually, one of the judges has him winning by a lot. Like, one of the judges has it scored like 120 to 116 or something. And, like, if you're watching the movie and you understand how boxing scoring goes, you're like, wait, what? How did we not see that? Why did they show that? Like, I want to see him winning all those rounds, but he went, and we see Escobar, like, start crying. He, like, hits his knees. He's like, no, shut up. We don't care about you. What do you lose? A fight? Billy cries a little bit, and then he goes over to the corner, and he puts his head in the corner, and he talks to Maureen. And what he says is generally inaudible. There's a lot of whispering that doesn't really get picked up. But you know what he's doing. It's made obvious what he's doing. And so it cuts from that. They go back to this the dressing room, or to his actual dressing room, not the one that Layla's in. And in the background, if you pay attention, you see his friends. Like, one has a wrapper and he throws it in the trash can. One picks up a couple water bottles and throws them in the trash can. This is very different from the first dressing room that we see, where they're just kind of throwing stuff places. Where somebody spills something and they just pick it up, and they don't clean it up. And then Layla runs in, and she's so happy. We forgot the reaction after the uppercut of Layla and Angela, because Angela stands up and she's like, yeah! Like, she, like, freaks out. Like, yeah, Layla's happy. Angela is freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you watch the movie, she's kind of been rooting for him the whole time.
Yeah.
This is the only time where she can actively be happy that he's done well. She wants him to be a good parent. She wants him to have Layla. But she has to make sure it's done the right way. Well, at this point, all she can do to make sure that happens is root for Billy to win this fight. So it happens, and Naomi Harris does a good job of being like, ah, like a fan would, She brings Layla to Billy's dressing room, and then she leaves.
Mm-hmm.
She smiles and leaves. He doesn't need her anymore, and neither does Layla. They have each other now. When Layla comes in, everybody leaves. Oh, shoot, I forgot about the belt. The other thing that happens differently from the beginning of the movie, where we see Jordan Maines hold the belt, and then Billy, take it away. Ah, it's my belt. And that's just kind of the game they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
Billy gives the belt to Tick.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, it's your belt. And he's like, no, it's your belt. I don't want it.
He wants him to hang it up in the gym.
Mm-hmm. He tells him to go hang it up in the gym for the boys. Ferda. Sorry, it was there. I don't get to use that one very often, but all right. So there's this pulled out shot of Billy and Layla, and he's on his knees and she's hugging him, and we see the dressing room this way. All the towels are folded. Everything's pushed back up against the wall. The floor's clean. The catering table, all the drinks have been put in order. All the water bottles are in straight lines. The floor is clean. The couch is put back together. And it's just the two of them. So the room is clean. I'm okay. And the last line of the movie, which is the most important sentences in the movie, is Layla saying, let's go home. And we see him, he picks her up, like he's just holding her and he picks her up. And he doesn't need us, the audience, anymore either. Their story keeps going. We don't have to be a part of it anymore. So instead of the movie fading to black, the camera leaves the dressing room and goes down the hallway where we see like the media scrum and everything. We leave the dressing room, not the other way around. And then we get, as it cuts to credits.
Isn't it a Frank Ocean song? That's
During this,
too?
There's an unreleased Frank Ocean song, which, hey, anybody in the world, can you find me this song? Because it was supposed to be on the soundtrack, and it's not. and it's called Proud of You, because he
tells Layla that her mom would be proud of her.
Right.
So that's what the song is saying, too.
Right. And it's Frank Ocean saying, your mother would be so proud of you. And then when we cut to credits, it says, in remembrance of our friend James Horner. And then after the Frank Ocean song ends, we get another cool Eminem song, which is Eminem featuring Gwen Stefani. It's called Kings Never Die.
Yeah.
Second favorite song on that soundtrack. And so that's my entire way too deep analysis of Southpaw.
The way that you explained that final shot was... I didn't even think of it like that, but that was very beautiful.
No, thank you.
Like, I didn't even think of it like their story is done, so now it's our turn to depart and see it from that point of view.
Because we've been there for him the whole time.
Yeah.
He doesn't need us anymore. He doesn't need anybody but her anymore.
Yeah.
So we see his friends leave. We see Tick walk out. We see Angela. He doesn't need them all the time anymore. And now that he has her, he doesn't need us anymore either. Yeah. So we also leave the dressing room before them. And that's one of my favorite movies ever. And I've had people disagree with me on it. And if you disagree with me on it after this, That's your problem, because I just proved... Because over the past 6 weeks, I proved why it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is also the season finale. Season 2 of Themes to be Seen. We'll come back... What?
I don't know. We haven't decided yet. We do have an announcement to make, though.
Woo!
Next Saturday, February 19th, we are sponsoring an evening of The Love Witch at the historic Masonic Theater in Bay City. So there will be 2 showings. There will be a 9 p.m. and a midnight showing, and it costs only $2 to get in. Doors open at 8:30, so you can show up a little bit earlier if you want. There will also be concessions. How much are the concessions? They're usually like a dollar. And I believe they're also going to have a raffle for a prize, but we'll be there.
Come talk to us.
Yeah.
Ask us about movies.
It's only $2 and to come out and see The Love Witch, which is a Technicolor dream.
Yeah. My favorite quote ever is when Joe Bob did it, and he said that this whole movie looks wet. And I only say it that way because that's how he said it.
Yeah.
He said, like Joe Bob said, looks like if you reach out and touch the movie, your hand will have paint on it when you pull it away. And it's the perfect description, because this movie looks liquid. Like, it's very flowing and beautiful. And then there's like the My Fair Lady looking outfits and the contrasting backgrounds, and it's a cinematic masterpiece just in the sense of looking at it. I could like look at this movie. We also have the Love Witch poster up here. You can only see it apparently if you work with Tara, which is ironic because it's got some boobs on it. But
oh no, the camera doesn't go up that high.
Oh, okay.
So no one can see it. And plus, on my Zoom calls, I blur out the background.
Why? With all our cool posters?
I only do that like if we're in smaller meetings.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, for like our team meetings and stuff,
You know what we should do? And this is a cool idea. I want everybody to see this so they know that I'm not being malicious. We should get like some fishing line and then take that mask and like hang the mask like right here, and then you just be
like
on
that scene in Host.
Yeah, where you're just like talking, hey, what's this filter do, and act like you press a button and then that mask is just there.
Oh, that would be funny.
Yeah, just mess with your coworkers. They'd be like, oh no, Tara. If you work with Tara, I'm really sorry, but I have to do that now. So tonight feel like I've actually fully gone through and analyzed one of my favorite films. We've come up with an idea for an amazing documentary.
Yeah.
We covered a movie that people should absolutely 100% know about, and a music video that inspired an entire genre. I feel like it's a successful finale.
I don't know about you, but I am completely drained. That was a lot of work.
I'm tired. So we're going to take some time off. Once we get the whole next season finished, like notes-wise, research-wise, get all that done first.
And we'll probably do some brainstorming about things we want to change up.
Yep.
And,
also, doesn't mean we won't still be putting out content every now and then. We'll still be doing some fun stuff. Some side stuff. Not, like, super in-depth, but fun.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple ideas for side projects I have just for funsies. Maybe have a couple guests via Zoom.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's season 2.
Ooh.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
All right, this is the last time for a couple months.
Are we missing anything? Is there anything else we need to talk about? Did we see anything else this week?
The penultimate episode of Peacemaker was fun.
There's still one more, though,
I said
right?
penultimate. Yeah.
Penultimate?
It's, second to last.
Ah, yes.
There's one episode left of Pam and Tommy.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like it's going to be weird not having to watch stuff.
But then there's so many other things that we've started that we've yet to finish. Like, we're on season 2 of Ozark now. We've yet to go back and finish The Sopranos.
I have finished. No, you're forgetting. I have watched all the way through The Sopranos.
But then we were rewatching it, and I don't remember how far we got. Like,
you had just met Ralph Cifaretto.
Yeah. And then we stopped after we watched the Many Saints of Newark movie. For some reason, we just didn't go back.
No, we watched Many Saints of Newark, and then, like, we watched a whole nother season or so. Because the whole thing... We watched the whole thing with Janet and,
Janet? Janice, you mean?
Janice and...
and Ralphie?
Yeah.
Ralphie... Whatever.
Yeah.
That scumbag.
Right. And that we watched that whole season after after we watched Many Saints. Which, by the way, if you didn't like Many Saints in Newark, you're wrong. So.
Oh, Matt.
They're wrong.
Well, that was almost like a walk-in impression.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. It just kind of came out on its own.
But yeah, now we'll have some more time to watch some movies, because I feel like we have so many apps too, and there's some apps that we haven't opened in months. Like before
Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't watched any of Book of Boba Fett, none of Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah, and then we did start watching like the Jeff Goldblum show and
The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
What Ifs. We never watched any of the What Ifs.
Yeah.
Also, a little bit of news. I might have a cool project coming up next year. We'll probably
wait till it gets closer.
Wait till it gets close.
You
but
know, that superstitious kind of feeling.
I'm not superstitious about that.
I get superstitious about stuff like that.
I get superstitious about two people walking opposite sides of a pole.
Yeah. It's kind of inconvenient sometimes.
Well, that's your problem. Okay.
It's your world and we're just living in it.
I feel like we're rambling at this point. Okay. For the last time for a while. Adopt, don't fucking shop.
Think pink.
Buy a carbon monoxide detector.
And have a sparkling week. And a sparkling next few weeks or months or however long before we see you again. Unless you come visit us at the theater next Saturday for the Love Witch.
Exactly.
And you can come see us then.
Exactly.
And come see a beautiful movie about a beautiful witch 2 times.
I mean, you can come to both showings.
Yeah, it's only $2.
You could also, bring us dinner. I mean, you don't have to.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. No, you don't have to.
Just come out to see a beautiful movie and support the continued renovation and fixing up of the theater.
Indeed.
Yes. Support local and support the local culture so that it's not completely taken over by corporations and
gentrification.
Stuff. Yeah.
Making gentrica fuck off. You know what that's from?
What?
Shameless.
See, I've never watched Shameless.
God damn it! Alright. Now we gotta start another show.
Let's just finish the ones. Let's finish The Sopranos. Let's finish Ozark.
Okay.
I feel like there's yet another one too that
probably
The Wire. You've never finished The Wire.
Yeah, but now it's
only the greatest television series of all time.
Okay, so I've been showing you The Sopranos, and you still tell me
that The Wire. Yes, until I complete The Sopranos. The Wire is it for me.
All right. We gotta end this. Okay.
This is our life.
Thank you for joining us. Come back when we come back.
Come back, please.
we do this for so many reasons, but and it's a lot of fun, but it's also tiring. So
it is.
Make sure you catch us when we come back. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.
Good night.
Where'd the thing go? Oh.